Imagine walking into an auction and spotting a nearly brand new $90,000 luxury pickup. Leather seats, panoramic roof, adaptive cruise, the whole package, with a starting bid of just $16,000. At first, you'd probably laugh, thinking it's a misprint or a scam. But then, as you look around, you realize it's not a typo, it's real. And it's not just one truck. It's dozens, even hundreds, lined up like abandoned monuments to a market that has completely collapsed. That's not a hypothetical. It's happening right now. Across America, trucks that once symbolized wealth, power, and success are being dumped at auction for pennies on the dollar. And here's the terrifying part. This isn't just about scoring a bargain. It's about a broken system that could take down dealers, banks, and ordinary families in a way we haven't seen since 2008. So, how did we get here? And more importantly, what happens next? Meet Mike, a contractor from Texas. Like a lot of Americans, he had been watching the truck market closely, waiting for prices to finally cool off. He figured patience would pay off. And last week, it looked like it did. Scrolling through late-night auction listings, he spotted the deal of a lifetime, a 2022 Ford F-250 King Ranch. Original sticker price just shy of $90,000, now listed at $16,500. The odometer read just 22,000 miles. No accident history, no flood damage, no salvage title. Just a barely used luxury pickup at a price that seemed impossible. Mike's heart pounded. He triple-checked the VIN. He scanned every database. Clean history across the board. Everything about the listing screamed opportunity. But when he showed up to bid, he was greeted not by crowds of eager buyers, but by eerie silence. Rows of unsold trucks stretched across the lot, many still wrapped in plastic from the factory. And as he stood there, staring at that King Ranch, the truth hit him. This wasn't a deal. This was a warning. Because if $90,000 trucks are being dumped for $16,000, the entire luxury truck market isn't just soft, it's broken. To understand how we ended up in this mess, you have to rewind the clock. Between 2015 and 2023, the average price of a new pickup truck skyrocketed from about $38,000 to more than $61,000. That's a 60% increase in less than a decade. Meanwhile, household incomes, they rose only about 25% during that same period. Adjust for inflation, and the real increase was closer to 12%. Back in the 1990s, buying a truck meant spending about half of the average family's annual income. By 2022, a new truck swallowed nearly all of it, 95% of the median household income. Monthly payments reflected the insanity. In 2015, the average payment was around $450. By 2022, it had ballooned to $900 or more. Families weren't just buying trucks, they were mortgaging their futures to drive them. And the loans? They stretched to 7 years, sometimes even 8. But that wasn't a bug in the system. It was the plan. Behind the curtain, automakers weren't just raising prices for fun. They were engineering an entire ecosystem to maximize profits. Ford, GM, Ram, all the big players started pushing high-trim trucks. King Ranch, Denali, Platinum, Limited. Trucks loaded with every gadget, every badge, every stitch of leather. These weren't work trucks anymore. They were status symbols, marketed as investment-grade vehicles. But here's the dark secret. The dealers didn't actually want this many high-end trucks. They were forced into it. Detroit dangled huge incentives, cash bonuses of $10,000 or more per truck if dealers agreed to take extra high-trim inventory. Allocation became the golden ticket. If you moved enough loaded luxury trucks, you got first dibs on future shipments. Refuse, and your allocation will be cut. On paper, the margins were massive, sometimes 30% per truck. But the reality was simple. Automakers had created a bubble, one designed to funnel profits to the top, while ordinary families struggled just to keep up. And bubbles don't last forever. When the bubble burst, the first cracks showed up at the auctions. At Mannheim, Dallas, late model Denali, F-150 Platinums, and Ram Limiteds. Trucks that just a year earlier commanded $85,000 or more started hammering at $15,000 to $18,000. Some trucks didn't get a single bid. Dealers whispered nervously, "This is 2008 all over again," but worse, the atmosphere was surreal. Chrome gleamed, leather smelled new, and window stickers were still tucked in glove boxes. These weren't clapped-out workhorses. These were showroom-quality trucks, but nobody wanted them. Not at those prices. Not anymore. And that silence on the auction floor told the whole story. The old rules no longer applied. When the auction stalled, the banks noticed, and they weren't about to take chances. Confidential memos leaked from lenders like Ali and Santander warned of dramatic collateral risk tied to high-trim pickups. In plain English, those $90,000 trucks were now financial landmines. Lenders froze credit lines overnight. Dealers who missed payments or carried inventory too long suddenly found themselves cut off. Auditors showed up unannounced, counting trucks and demanding explanations. For dealers, the math was brutal. Every unsold $90,000 truck costs $16 to $18 a day in interest and insurance. 20 trucks meant more than $10,000 a month bleeding away before a single sale. And while they waited for buyers, the market value of those trucks kept plunging. Banks didn't care. They wanted liquidation at any price. And that's when the repossessions began to surge. Repo crews are now working overtime across America. In Dallas, Houston, Orlando, Atlanta, tow trucks roll out before dawn, scanning driveways for badges that read King Ranch, Denali, Platinum. They're not hauling away old beaters. They're dragging off trucks that just a year ago were someone's pride and joy, still under warranty, with barely 20,000 miles. And behind every repo, there's a family story. Lisa, a nurse in Missouri, bought her dream GMC Denali for $89,000. 2 years later, her dealer offered her just $18,000 on trade. She still owes more than $70,000. She's stuck. Marcus, a plumber in Florida, had his F-150 Platinum stolen. His insurance payout, just $16,700, the new market value, but his loan balance was still $56,000. He lost the truck, but the debt stayed. For families like these, the collapse isn't just financial, it's personal. Credit scores destroyed, businesses crippled, the shame of watching a tow truck haul away what was once a symbol of success. Make no mistake, this didn't happen by accident. Automakers engineered this bubble. They flooded the market with overpriced luxury trucks, propped up by hidden incentives and forced dealer allocations. When demand softened, instead of scaling back, they doubled down. Factories kept running at full tilt, secret rebates stacked on top of official ones. Dealers were trapped, forced to keep taking shipments of trucks they knew they couldn't sell. By late 2024, lots were overflowing. Some trucks sat 250, even 400 days unsold, and still, production continued. When the music stopped, Detroit shrugged. They blamed market corrections and economic headwinds. But the truth is simple. They built the bubble, and when it burst, they left ordinary Americans holding the bag. Now the lawsuits are piling up. Owners who lost their trucks to repossession are suing banks, automakers, and even insurers. They argue the industry knowingly inflated values and left buyers in financial ruin. Insurers, meanwhile, face legal battles over lowball payouts, pointing to auction data instead of replacement value. Analysts warn the collapse isn't over. Forecasts suggest luxury truck prices could fall another 10% before the dust settles, dragging down the rest of the used car market with them. And automakers? They're scrambling to pivot. Production of high trims is being cut. Incentives are being stacked higher. Affordable models like the Ford Maverick and Honda Ridgeline are suddenly outselling their luxury cousins. The market is shifting, but the damage is already done. So here's the bottom line. Yes, you can walk into an auction today and pick up a $90,000 truck for $16,000. But don't mistake that for a miracle. It's a symptom of a market in freefall. And if you're not careful, that deal could become the biggest financial mistake of your life. The companies that built this bubble are betting you won't pay attention. They're hoping you'll ignore the fine print, jump on flashy discounts, and keep the system alive. But you don't have to play their game. Stay informed, read the signs, and never forget that behind every shiny truck dumped at auction lies a story of debt, repossession, and shattered promises. If you don't want to be the next one blindsided, make sure you subscribe and grab the free guide in the description. 17 car brands to avoid in 2025. Because this collapse isn't just history, it's still unfolding and the next wave could be even worse.